So as I sat down to make it, I decided that I wanted to potentially format it in a way that is less of the structure, like I did this year and this the next year, because I've done that and I've been there. And I wanted to pursue through something that more accurately represents the thought process that I take when sitting down to think and write about stuff like this. So I also hate reports that are named something boring. So this is the disjointed ramblings of an overtired undergraduate. And photos courtesy of my roommate in our church. So one of the, I guess what I wanted to go through and do today is touch a little bit on my experiences and give a little bit more of the like in-depth thing about my experiences that you can't find on my LinkedIn, because if I just got appearances of what I did, you could just look at my LinkedIn and get the same stuff. And I also wanted to again, like present it in such a way that I think about it. And so at first I thought of making a presentation via like music quotes, but then I realized I was struggling to make everything fit. So instead, I made the presentation as a conglomeration of quotes and sayings that I repeat to myself throughout my daily life. And no, not all of them made the cut, but quite a lot of them did. So the first thing that I thought of when I sat down to reflect on my 4 years as I was sitting and writing my exit report 3 days late is it really be what it is. I say this every and if we look at my my freshman year, and if we talk about internships and things done and opportunities lost. This was the very first kind of like slap on the face that I had here in college. We all have them, right? And that was when, if you look at the date, that was Tuesday, March 24th, so far too late to apply for more internships. I got a notification saying that my cybersecurity internship would be canceled instead of moved further, which was fantastic. And so between that and other things, as top scholars, we talk a lot about failure and how to deal with it. We talk a lot about imposter syndrome, right? And so reflecting back onto my freshman year and stuff like that, I think me, like a lot of us in the room, like felt in imposter syndrome and felt like there are people that are doing a whole lot more that deserve to be here a whole lot more. And something that I realized as I went through my time here at UTSA is that that feeling doesn't always go away, and it's okay that that feeling doesn't always go away. And it's important to be able to recognize, you know what, I'm doing my best and that's good enough for me, and it be what it is. And it doesn't, imposter syndrome's not helped when we have people like Tejas running TEDx conferences. And so that's one, that's kind of, I would say that sounds like my freshman year if you want to break it down into years, right? So kind of going through the motions, trying to figure out where I was doing, how I was getting involved in stuff. I have some other experiences from freshman year that are sprinkled in later, such as like research with Dr. Beebe and stuff like that. And I'll talk about that on a future slide. The next point that I wanted to touch on is, I say this one a lot. I said this one a lot to Brandon, which is this is the game we play, right? And so this is a good time to talk about my work with CrowdStrike and my internship. The what was I going to say here? The work that I've done with CrowdStrike, I did an internship after my sophomore year, which turned into an internship after my junior year, and then into a third internship while I was in DC with them, although on a different team. And I learned about digital forensics and incident response. So big company gets hacked, company's security team can't handle it. They or needs an investigation or a third party or something like that. Usually it's their lawyers that make them do this. They contract out to my company picks it up, we come in, we kick the threat actor out, we do an investigation, we tell them here's what they did, what they took, all the damage that was done, and then we give recommendations and also assist in remediation. One of the, looking at the quote that I used, right? This is the game we play. One of the things that I started to think about as I've been there for a while is I was like, okay, my resume is filled primarily with this one internship. What can I do to diversify, right? Because at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is we're all trying to promote success, right, in our own lives. But the game that we're playing is defining what success is, right? You're playing a game where you have to decide your own rules, right? And so something that I started to do is I started to get more involved on the intelligence side of the work there, which is not something that was part of the internship. It's something that I kind of was nosy and pushed my way into, and learning about threat actor tracking like their movements and what they're doing, understanding. It was really eye-opening when there was a period of time where work got kind of slow over the summer, and it was because one of the major threat actors was like on a break, and nobody that wasn't in the media or anything. And one of my mentors, Heather, was like, "Oh no, month and a half, they'll be back." And sure, like boom, work ramped back up. Like they know these people that are in this field, they know the adversaries that we're fighting, right? They know who these people are, they know how they function. And so that's a part of it that I got really, really interested in, and part of it that I'm excited to continue to explore. Also, I thought that picture was cool because I was in the DCA airport, and with all the TSA bins were sponsored by CrowdStrike, and so I took my hat off and took a picture and sent it to the work people. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on here, and this is kind of like a life lesson learned, is this poster in the middle, and it says "No one cares, work harder." That's been sitting over my desk for 3 years. And so every time like I'm not feeling well or want to like not do something, I look at the poster and sit down. And recently the poster has come down because I think I've realized that while "No one cares, work harder" is a great is helpful in certain situations to maintain your ability to continue to push forward, it's not true. And the truth is a lot of people care, right? And a lot of people are here for you. And that is the motivation to work harder, right? Is to do right and do well by the people that are there for you. And so that was a really big pivotal moment for me this past year when I kind of started to think about that a little bit more. And that kind of all plays into this slide. The next quote that I would use to represent my life is, "A flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it, it just blooms." This is a sign that is hanging on the wall in my bedroom at home. I can't take it to the dorm because they'd fine me $250 putting a nail on the wall. And it doesn't, if you've been in my dorm room, it doesn't really fit the decor of what I do at all. Yeah, you know, the classic rock posters and such. But I really like this quote because I really think that it's important to me to remember and keep in my head that as much as I'm going to strive for success, as much as, like, for example, when I go back to my job, I refuse to be anything but the best walking in. And if I'm not, I'm going to work my butt off to get there. It's also important to know that I'm not competing with those around me. And I want to facilitate and foster environments where I'm trying to lift other people up, and I know that they're trying to lift me up, and so we can all succeed together. And the reason that I included this quote is because that is one of the core ethos of the program that I've done most of my service with over the past 4 years. And again, why I can't break this presentation into years, because the service has remained constant, which is FRC robotics mentorship. So the FRC team over at Brandeis, I've talked a lot about this to a lot of my friends because I'm crazy about this. First is a huge $80 million nonprofit organization. It was started by this dude, Dean Kamen, who's the guy that invented the Segway. I'm standing in his house right there, which was really, really cool. That's his helicopter pad behind me. His mansion, yeah, it's in Manchester, New Hampshire. I had a great time. But anyway, one of the things that I always tried to emphasize to my kids whenever I was teaching them is I'm not here to build robots, right? I am not an engineer. And quite frankly, if I was and I wanted to build robots, I'd be doing it at UTSA or not working at a high school. Like, what I'm here to do is I'm here to give back to a program that developed me into who I am, right? And also to develop students to be ready to enter the next stages of life. And I try to make that clear to each and every one of my students. And it's like, what do you want to get out of this program, right? You want to be the person that like teaches yourself. I had a kid last year that wanted to learn linear algebra for like modern control theory. And so I said, okay, you want to do it? That's fine. I'll learn linear algebra with you. So I did, right? And like so that I could learn it to teaching them. You want to do that? Let's do that. You want to focus on business, right? And the awards putting together. Let's do that, right? And so I made an attempt to always try to meet students where they're at. The other important thing about robotics that I'm really proud of is attempting to spread it through the Alamo region. San Antonio is not like a dead zone for STEM education, but it is nothing compared to Houston, Austin, and Dallas. And so I've attempted to do a lot of work to spread the growth there. I was lucky enough to be an assistant coach for a wealthy team. Me and the other coaches raised $66,000 for the team budget this past year, which I was super proud of. And by doing that, we made an active attempt to redistribute knowledge, wealth, and materials wherever we could, through hosting mentor workshops where we had coaches from around the state come here to San Antonio. We partnered with Tech Port SA, and we hosted a big event where we could teach coaches how to coach, especially since most of them are high school teachers whose school said, hey, you're doing this, and they went, and stuff like that, or working with schools like Linear or Central Catholic, a bunch of other schools like that. So it's been really really influential in my life, and I've got to meet a lot of people through that. I can't stop thinking about that house. Will.i.am was standing next to me for a little bit while we were there too. I'm the dude that stands behind them while they're driving the robot and like screams my head off at them as to what to do. And actually, in this picture right here, our driver looks back at me and went, you really haven't yelled about this competition like you normally do. And I said, that's because you haven't made the robot move yet. It's broken. Why am I going to yell? There's nothing to yell about. And so it's a lot of fun. And it was super tough this year, knowing that this is going to be my last year with this program. And as of after they finished up their season, I have stepped away from the robotics team in San Antonio, which I'll get into a little bit later. But and it sucks to know that it's going to go on without me, but I am happy to know that the program itself is going to sustain on, and that the work that I've done there is going to be there for hopefully years to come. And so, every once in a while I'll see something online that the team is doing, or that like this year we wrote like a code base that a bunch of teams around the nation are using, and I'll see something about it online and I'm like, oh, that's me, that's cool. So that's been really super impactful with my life, and no matter where I go and where I live, I will continue to be involved with this type of program somewhere in some form or fashion. The next quote for this, you ever have those people that they tell you something and you're like, I really hate hearing that, and I hate even more that you're right. That was Dr. John Daly in his advocacy class at Archer. Dr. John Daly is a very impressive professor from the University of Texas at Austin. He flew up to DC 3 times and taught us a class on both personal and political advocacy. And he had all of these like one-liners he'd chuck out. Don't manipulate them too hard. If you want to control a meeting, don't send out an agenda, stuff like that. But the one that everybody always repeated and it turned into a little bit of a meme at Archer was make the ask. That was his like a mantra that he repeated to us. And every once in a while we'd be doing something and someone would say, oh, you just got to make the ask. And I'd be like, yeah, it's working. And so some of the things looking back that I made the ask about and was able to do that I probably wouldn't have been able to do if I didn't, was initially doing IoT research with Dr. Beebe. I don't know if Dr. Beebe, maybe or not, but Dr. Beebe is the department chair for cyber, although I believe she's getting promoted next year to is it AVP for research? It's something big like that. She's going to be helping oversee research at the university, I believe. But she was my faculty meeting during top scholar selection. And my freshman year, I got imposter syndrome into wanting to do research because I talked to Kristen Strong too much. And I emailed Dr. Lee and said, hey, I want to ask you about research. And I walk in to her office and say, yeah, I'm interested, and this is my background, and I'm not sure if research is even a thing for like this area of study. And she goes, is Kyle out in the waiting room? And I hear Kyle go, yeah. And she goes, all right, Kyle, come here. And then she goes, Dylan, this is Kyle. He's the president of the Cybersecurity Association. He also works in my lab. You're going to be working with him. And she picked up the phone and called Warren, who's just here for Suplumpy's, or nothing, who's just here for Suplumpy's presentation. And she goes, Warren, can you come up to my office for a second? And he comes up, and we sat there and had a whole conversation. About the time I walked out of the office, I was in her research lab, and freshman me was like, whoa! Little did I know that's just how Dr. Beebe works. And so I did some long-term research with a fantastic team over there, and a lot of the work that they're doing with Secret Service and NIST and MITRE and a couple other organizations has been really, really cool. I was not involved with that lab this year, but last I heard they were going to be working on some like digital forensics training, which was going to be awesome. I also, after my unfortunate demise with iHeartMedia my freshman year, ended up working with Dr. Elias Buhar, who's also ridiculously impressive, and built a started building front-end visualizations for IoT botnet data. So not to bore you too much, but Dr. Buhar, in collaboration with a bunch of other universities, had these, he called them IoT telescopes. And basically what they did is they were passively collecting data from hacked IoT devices around the internet. They were getting like a terabyte of data a day. That data was being chunked up, and then he wanted a way to show it off. Because what was happening was he was finding like botnets that were infecting IoT devices in companies, right? In government organizations, right? And you can pull based off like public IP address ranges and stuff. You can pull who owns these things, right? So what I built was a platform that allowed you to go through to go through and look at the data in a lot of different ways. Look at it by geographic location, right? Look at it by industry vertical. This here was like a heat map of it that you could break down into. And then also you could set up email-based alerts if something from your organization had gotten pwned and was openly reporting that it was pwned. And so that ended up getting demoed, and I think they're still demoing it. There was an Express News article about it, which was really cool. My name was not on it, but it was on the publication, which is the important part. I had one thing on my research date, and probably always will, just for one. And it was really neat to be able to work on that. And while I didn't work at that time as a freshman with any of the like real cyber data, I got to look at it, I got to learn the database schema that it was coming in as, and I got to watch Dr. Safaipur, who's more Teza than me at that point, he's got his PhD since, go through and watch how he's dealing with that data, which made me learn a lot, and just a lot about like how fingerprinting works, like digital fingerprinting and stuff like that. And the last thing for making me ask was the CSOC internship and part-time employment. One of my friends in the lab, Turquoise, worked with the Cybersecurity Operations Center over the summer as a part-time position. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And lo and behold, Dr. Beebe, oh, I'll email Brad. And I said, what? And then I walk in on my first day and I go, Brad Cooper? As in Ryan Cooper? Ryan Cooper was my programming mentor in high school in the robotics team. He's the guy that taught me how to code. And I was like, oh, I'm working for his dad now. I didn't even know. So that experience was one of the best that I've ever done. The team there is fantastic. I still talk to my old boss, Sam, like all the time. I just sent him a meme yesterday when the Wi-Fi went down. And got to learn about the day-to-day defensive network operations, which as when I went to CrowdStrike afterwards, some of my mentors were telling me, I realized that was super important, right? Because the clients that I will be working with full-time with CrowdStrike afterwards, the people that we're working with on their end are the people sitting in the position I was sitting in the SOC, or the position that my boss was sitting in. I guess I'm an intern. But so it was neat to be able to see it from both sides. And so when I'm here at CrowdStrike, like, why don't you protect your network? I'm like, oh, that's why. Because funding, because this, because that, because politics, right? And so that was, I learned a lot. I also learned a lot about like networking, like the nitty gritty details of defensive network. Was up on some Splunk foo a little bit to be able to get better at that and at analysis of breaches, which was cool. This is, the picture has no relation to the quote. I just didn't have a picture of this. That's my friend Matthew. He gives Harvard results. But this is one that I find myself saying to myself a lot, which is thank you for my slice of humble pie. That's from Father Jason Martini. Father Jason Martini was the priest my freshman and sophomore year at St. Anthony's Catholic Student Center, which Edgar and I used to go to every Sunday. And he said this during a homily once where he was talking about, truthfully, I don't remember what he was talking about. He was talking about something that went wrong, I think when he was a lawyer and got called his foot in his mouth, something like that. But he said the words, thank you for my slice of humble pie, right? And humble pie is when I had to look this one up. It's when you mess up pretty bad and then you have to own it and apologize for it, right? And so the reason I included this quote is because one of the questions in the Top Scholar end of year report was, about regrets you have in college. And I sat down with my notebook and I was gonna like write out some regrets on my notebook and put it on a slide, and then I filled up the page and I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. But I think that one of the things that I have learned and one of the insights that I've gained is it's important to recognize that when failure happens, it's an open door for opportunity, right? Every success that I've had has been in the face, in the light of a very recent failure. And similarly, when you're the one that messes up, like, because a failure can be like, yeah, it sucks, I didn't get an internship, I didn't get this, I didn't get that, but like, it's not necessarily my fault, maybe, sort of, kind of. But also, the same logic applies when it's your fault, right? In my personal and professional career, there have been many times when somebody's looked at me and gone, oh, no, this is your fault, you messed up, right? And being able to take that and own it, and say, yeah, I did, and here's how I'm going to move forward from it, has been a skill that I've had to develop over the past 4 years, and it's been super impactful just to kind of keep this quote in the back of my head, right? And say, you know what, thank you for putting me through this failure because I can learn from it. Right, and so a couple of the things I think I mentioned in my report, I don't know if I mentioned these ones exactly, but like, I wish that I got involved in TSSO and more program development stuff. I wish that I had become more involved on campus, right? I wish that I had diversified a little bit more. I wish I had worked for the White House, stuff like that. But looking back at it, I'm happy to report that I am very happy with where I ended up and how my college career has gone. And I'm going to take all of those things you wish would have been different, I think is how Christy worded the report.
And don't say regrets.
Exactly. Things that you wish would have been
double
different.
check this.
No, but that's how I read it. And being able to take those and spin those into, okay, here's where I messed up in undergrad, and here's where I'm going to do better later on. I have to remind myself sometimes that we're 21, 22. I have to remind myself sometimes that we're 22, and it's like we have a long time to go ahead of us. I have no idea what the next slide is. We're just going to go for it. Oh, this is another one. When I was, I won't spend much time on this, but when I was a little kid, one of the first book series that I read with my dad was Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. That's how I used to, it did the whole like one more chapter thing, and then all of a sudden it's like 11 p.m. and I was 10. But this is a quote that has always stuck with me. I remember being 10 and hearing this come out of the book, and it plays in my head more often than I care to admit. And Aslan, who's the Christ figure in the story, is talking to Lucy, who's the youngest. And he goes, to know what would have happened, child. No, nobody's ever told that, right? And so remembering to take the time to, remembering to acknowledge when you're thinking about something you could have done different, or you could have gotten this internship, you could have been better friends with that person and stuff like that. And really saying, you know what, there's no point in focusing on what could have happened, but only moving forward and focusing on what will happen. And I didn't have a good segue into this, so this is my segue. Archer was fantastic. I did not have time to put this in my slide in there. This is the squad from Archer. That's Brendan, shout out to Brendan and Grace on the top left. We sat together in every class, and Brendan and I played chess during almost every class. Or Snake, it just depended on what it was. Those 8-hour classes were brutal, man. Jesse, why you put your hands up? I'm not playing chess with you. Where's the invite? It'd be over in 30 seconds. And then everybody else here is the roommates. That's Mira up on the top right. Mira and I had a lot of late nights just sitting around and talking, because I would come back from playing pool with Brendan and Grace, and it'd be like 11 p.m. and he's in the kitchen, he's got music on, he's making like traditional like Pakistani food. The entire apartment smells like all the spices he's using, and we would just sit in the kitchen and talk about stuff. I learned a lot about the Muslim faith, a lot about Pakistan, a lot about the geopolitical nuances of the region, because he lived there until he was 15. And while I have a lot of friends from that area of the world, he was my first friend that had lived there for like, I would say a period of time where he was old enough to really understand things. And so like I learned a lot about the Shia-Sunni conflict and stuff like that. So that was really amazing. On the bottom left, that's Dylan. Dylan is the smartest political science student I've ever met. He also worked for Ian Klobuchar, God rest his soul. And that's that's Jared. Jared and I would connect over jazz because Jared is a huge jazz fanatic and I'm a huge rock fanatic. And neither of us knew anything about the other one. So it was after coming back from Archer that I started like a jazz playlist and started listening to that. And then there's Alejandro and Gideon, the last one, who is in Gideon's, not any of the other photos, he's the one taking them. And they are fantastic people as well. I spent a lot of time just hanging out talking with Gideon. We have incredibly different political beliefs, and being able to sit there and really talk with him through ideas was really, really, really informative. And there's just a lot of good things that came out of Archer. I feel like I developed a lot in my ability to communicate with people, and my ability to reach across the aisle and accept different viewpoints, and that was really, really, really impactful to me. And so while I didn't work in policy as much as I would have liked to, and while I probably didn't get as much out of all of the classes as I probably would have liked to, some of that's fault of my own, some of it's not, being able to live there and learn more really helped. And I also fell in love with the location. I fell in love with the DC metro area. Christine and I have talked about that a lot, and just living there and the culture there. And it reminds me a lot of home because I'm from the north originally, if you didn't know. So I think it's Brandon's face is not thrilled right now. It's okay to do some commentary. Oh, no. I don't remember if that one made it in or not. But this is something that my mom told me growing up a lot. It's none of your business what other people think of you. And it took me a long time to realize what that means, because it's about me. Of course, it's my damn business. But I think what she meant by that was it's not your. Looking at my time, it's been 30 minutes. I'm gonna wrap up. It's not your responsibility to make other people like you. It's just your responsibility to be your most authentic self, and to influence those around you. And if they choose whatever they choose to think about you is on them, not you. And so really discovering that and really getting connected with a solid group of friends, especially this past year, has been great. We've had a lot of really great fun times together. And when at dinner, when Brandon was playing footsie with me, and the waiter walked over. Vicky's 21st or 22nd. I keep saying that. Vicky's 22nd birthday party, where I adjusted the thermostat without telling her because it was super hot in there. Just stuff like that. It's been really great to hang out with people and to get to know more friends. And this is just a slide of stuff that was either cool or people that are important to me, and stuff like that. Okay, the bad picture of Tejas did not make it on here. Okay, I couldn't remember. So all the time spent hanging out with people. Jesse and the cowboy hat's one of my favorites. Shout out to Catherine for taking that gem. Something I didn't have time to touch on was TEDx and the work we put into that. But I developed a pretty close relationship with my speaker, Andre. He's fantastic. I love Andre, and got this cool picture of Andre and Angelica. That was right before he was about to speak during the tech run, and that was how he was warming up. He was calming his nerves by doing that. And then also just I have to give a huge shout out to my family, my parents. That's my sister there in the black and white, and my dog in the purple. My therapy dog, he needs therapy, don't ask. And just a huge shout out to my friends and to my family for always being there and always supporting me, and everything like that. I can't remember if there's more slides or not. There's not. So that's been my time at college. It's been a wild ride. It's been fun. We went through COVID. I got COVID pre-vaccine from the photographer who then got hired from that work as the official UTC photographer. Every time I see him, I'm like, oh, what's up? It's been a lot of fun, going to DC and getting to experience living somewhere else for the first time, and only getting chased around in the DC twice and getting body slammed on the metro once. And just, I'm so thankful for the community I developed here at UTSA. And it was, the last thing I'll say is it made me really happy when I was going through the report, and there was the question about things we wish you would be different. And then there was a question about, would you recommend our program at UTSA to your friends and family? And I said, I would recommend it to anybody that would listen. And out of all of the things that I wish would be different, being here and getting to meet everybody in this room was not one. So Thank you all for your time. I appreciate you coming.